Hello, friends. Welcome back to Freakish Fridays, the place where we dive deep into the eerie mysteries that surround us. Tattooed Biker here with you, and tonight I have a treat in store for you. I'm going to read 3 spine-tingling cryptid encounters that have been shared with us by our amazing listeners. But before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss any unsolved or unexplained content. So now, without further ado, strap in, kick back, and just enjoy the ride. Number 1. Lincolnshire, United Kingdom. I grew up in the small Lincolnshire hamlet of Branston Booths, named in legislation as a nitrate-sensitive area. It had a pub, an old wooden village hall, and a chapel, but no church or shop. What it lacked in amenities, however, it more than made up for in attractions for adventurous children, such as a mysterious island surrounded by a moat, a stretch of woodland with some old but occasionally inhabited caravans in the midst of it, always the operations center for international crimes in our imagination, and a body of reedy water known locally as the Delph. This waterway ran straight from the main crossroad at the booths, via an intersection with the car dike, to the central drain, ultimately feeding the county's main watercourse, the River Witham. The Delph has high, grassy banks on either side, accessed from the crossroads by the car dike's own bank, which runs crossways to meet them and provides a bridge between the car dike and the Delph. The first Delph bank is about 10 meters away from the crossroads access point. One summer's evening in 1985, as the day was slowly turning to night, I was with my band of adventurers at the crossroads. There were 5 of us, aged 12 to 14, chatting idly with the Delph and bank tops and the fields beyond as our backdrop. 3 had their backs to the Delph. I was facing it, and a friend, Daryl, was standing to my right on a slight diagonal, so he was able to turn to me and then to our friends, giving him a broader view than the rest of us. We were on the point of saying our goodbyes when something caught my eye. A head had popped up over the first Delph bank top, and as I turned to register it, my mind was troubled. Was this a rabbit-faced man or a man-faced rabbit? And with that, the head, on a pair of non-rabbit-sized shoulders, shot back down behind the bank. Open-mouthed, I looked at Daryl, who had a similar expression, and we both said in excited unison, "Did you see that?" We tried desperately to explain this to our friends. Daryl found it difficult to articulate, perhaps because of the angle at which he saw it, other than describing this human-animal thing popping up and shooting back down again. We searched along the banks to see if it was still there. We found nothing, but, if truth be told, we didn't look very hard. It was a terrifying encounter, but mercifully short. My friends were nonplussed. "You just saw a big hare or rabbit." But Daryl had seen what I had seen, and he just shook his head. Over the years, I've sought to explain this away as a trick of the light, but why would it trick 2 people in the same way? As a larger-than-normal animal. But I have seen enough rabbits and hares to know that they don't pop up in that way, or have human-like shoulders. Or as a person playing a prank, doubtful given that this is one of those places where everybody knows everybody else, and we would have definitely have heard about it later on. Was the entity perhaps a cousin of the giant rabbits of the mystical island of High Brazil? I've also wondered about whether I'd already seen the Wicker Man, and was simply imagining a man with an animal head mask popping into the shot, as they do most memorably in the film. But had Daryl seen that film too, and had he really been having the same thoughts as me? None of these strike me as satisfactory explanations. I definitely saw something strange that night, and it stayed with me ever since. We didn't mention it again within our group, and while I've always looked at those banks, hoping to catch another glimpse, none has been forthcoming. I lost touch with Daryl when I went to university and he moved from Branston Booths, and I hope he hears this account. It is the first time I've written it down and would welcome his and any other reflections on this brief encounter. Number 2. Pennsylvania. I grew up in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, which is right on the border of Pennsylvania and Delaware. There's a state park close by, Brandywine State Park, where the famous battle was fought during the Revolutionary War. A small part of that park is known as Beaver Valley. From satanic cults to a town full of little people, the number of conspiracies surrounding the place can lead you down quite the rabbit hole. Some people used it as a shortcut when Naaman's Road was backed up, but never at night, and never on any of the roads that supposedly harbored evil spirits. Well, one night after getting out of work around 11 o'clock, I was feeling adventurous. So I called my friend Alan to see if he wanted to check the place out with me. He agreed, and within a half hour, I had picked him up, and we were on our way. The park is large, and there are multiple roads leading into and out of it. Navigating it can be a little confusing, and cell phone service stinks, so GPS apps don't always work. Alan said he knew his way around, but I didn't really believe him. It didn't matter since I didn't have anything else to do this late at night. Anyway, so driving through the outskirts of the park was a little creepy. A few people lived back there, but there were no streetlights at all. The only illumination we had was being cast by my car's headlights. The roads rose and fell and curved often, sometimes sharply, so I had to give driving my full attention. Eventually, we found what we were looking for: Devil's Road, Cossart Road. It's called this because of the way that the trees grew along the side of the road, and they curve away from the road as if they're trying to uproot and escape something that's coming from deeper within the forest. I've heard about it plenty of times, but this was the first time actually seeing it. There are rumors of cults practicing satanic rituals here in the woods. Recalling the rumors and seeing the trees, I was starting to feel like I had my fill of weirdness for the night. I was thinking about getting through as fast as I could and getting back out onto one of the larger roads. Then Alan let out a surprised yelp from the passenger seat. He told me that he was looking into the forest beside the car, and he had seen something running along before disappearing into the brush. He didn't know what it was, but he said it could have been a deer or something. I kept driving. I figured we were out about 3/4 of the way through when I rounded another sharp curve and had to slam on my brakes. I had almost hit it right in front of the car. About 10 feet away, shining in the headlights, stood a completely naked man. Now, it was January, and the temperatures had been dropping into the 30s lately, so the guy would have had to have been freezing. He was tall and thin, filthy, with long matted brown hair and an unkempt beard. He stood staring into the windshield, not shivering or showing any signs of being exposed to the cold. His breath wasn't even fogging. Alan and I sat silently, both too shocked to say anything, and honestly, I was extremely scared. It started to get colder, even inside the car. I started to shiver, and then a moment later, I was shivering uncontrollably. Alan was doing the same thing right next to me. I began coming around to what was happening, and I reached down and put the car in reverse. Something was telling me just to get the hell out of there and leave the naked guy standing in the road, but the car wouldn't move. I was pressing the gas and the engine wouldn't even rev. I wasn't even sure that the car was on anymore. Now my head was beginning to feel foggy. Strange thoughts and ideas kept forming in my head, but they were slipping away before they could take root. I vaguely remember Alan reciting something that sounded like a Bible verse. As far as I know, Alan isn't particularly religious, and I found it strange that he could quote passages from the Bible. Then the man started to move slowly, stepping backward, methodically, foot after foot, still staring right into the windshield at me and Alan. He backed away completely out of view of the headlights, and then all that was in front of us was a stretch of empty road. I started warming up immediately, and the fogginess began drifting away. I then saw the eyes ahead on the road, coming from where the man had disappeared. It was a pair of narrowed red orbs, hovering about 8 feet off the road surface. They were moving slowly up and down as if attached to something moving. A creature slowly appeared given the light. It had the shape and size of a horse, but the head was a cross between a ram and a man, with curling horns that jutted from both sides and wisps of dark fur. The nose and mouth were unmistakably human. The fogginess suddenly returned tenfold, and I couldn't keep my eyes open any longer. I woke up to banging on my window next to my head. I had an excruciating headache, and there was a light being shined in my face. It was a police officer. We had come to in a small clearing off the roundabout that was about 3 miles away from where we had been. Alan had passed out as well, and neither of us could recall anything. The police officer asked us a lot of questions and even searched the car for drugs and gave me a breathalyzer test. I told him everything, and by the time we were done, he must have thought we were some kind of weird loonies and he just wanted to get rid of us. We hadn't really done anything illegal, at least I don't think so, and he let us go. I don't know how we ended up in that clearing, and I don't remember what happened after we saw the thing. I mean, bits and pieces are coming back to me slowly. I'm trying to think of all kinds of excuses. Maybe something was up with my car and we got a non-lethal dose of carbon monoxide or something. I don't know. I can't explain it. Since that night, there are random moments where I feel a sense of overwhelming terror, like something horrible is only seconds away from happening for some reason. I can't get it out of my head, and I have no idea why. Number 3. Virginia. Dear Biker, this is a throwaway email account because I don't want to include my name. I just don't want people to think I'm crazy. Just respond to the email if you use it in a video so I can read the comments. I hope it's okay that I've sent this to other channels, and I'm also going to be posting this wherever I can, and sending it wherever I can to get some kind of help because at this point, I think I'm going crazy. This all happened about 3 or 4 years ago, when I lived in King and Queen County, Virginia, living in a small neighborhood, if you could even call it that. It was actually just a small cul-de-sac. I'd only lived there for maybe a year, and things were always a little off. From me almost getting kidnapped in my own yard to an old man running at me with a stick after chasing a squirrel near his yard. Things weren't the safest. One night, about 10-11 at night, I needed water and went to the kitchen. Our kitchen was at the back of the house and connected to the back porch that had a really big deck on it. 20-plus people and a good quality grill could easily fit on it with no problem. There was one big window above the sink with super thin curtains that was always open because we didn't have AC back then. So I'd gotten my bottle of water, and while taking a sip, I kind of felt like something was staring at me. So I closed the fridge door and turned my whole body to look straight at the window, and I saw the thing. It was just staring at me with these sad, dead-looking eyes. The whole thing in general was just so messed up looking, I really don't know how to describe it. I was frozen for a second, but for some reason, I walked exactly 2 steps closer to the window. I guess because I didn't understand what I was looking at, and the thing took off. I ran to the window and watched the thing run on all 4s and jump over the neighbor's fence, causing their German shepherds to start going off. So I know it wasn't just my imagination. I became obsessed with it and drew it and showed my friends and even told and showed my dad. But they all laughed it off like some kind of joke. I saw it pretty frequently after that. It would show up at my school, house, woods, everything. And there was a number of dead animals around that time too. After a few months, it slowly started not appearing as much and completely stopped, maybe 2 to 3 months before I moved from that area. I generally forgot about the whole thing until me and my friend were talking about cryptids, and I told him about what I saw. Now that I remember, I'm obsessed again and need help with what that thing was and if someone else has ever seen anything similar. I think I'm going crazy no matter how many times I look up what it looked like or do deep dives on cryptids. Nothing comes up. And I'm starting to think that maybe everyone was right and it was just my imagination. But I know what I saw. And someone else has to know what I'm talking about, so please someone help me. I've attached a drawing I did on my iPad of what it looked like. Please, if you read this or hear this, if you can give me some leads, I'm actually begging at this point. And there you have it. All I have for tonight. 3 utterly mind-boggling encounters with mysterious cryptids, straight from the experiences of our brave listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in today and joining me on this chilling adventure. If you enjoyed the video and want to hear more fascinating stories and unsolved mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your fellow enthusiasts. Also, drop me a comment down below about any cryptid encounters you've experienced, or if you have any suggestions for future videos. As we conclude the episode, remember, the world is full of inexplicable wonders that lie just beyond what we can see. So until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you down the road a ways. Biker, out.